up is Michael Wynn, CEO of Coach Wynn LLC. He is a habit success strategist, international speaker, and best-selling author. As a certified authenticity coach with a background as a financial auditor, financial literacy trainer, he coaches, speaks, and gives advice on how to live, optimize, and accomplish your personal and business goals with successful habits. Michael's new book is called Habits Don't Lie: 7 Habits to Overcome Obstacles to Win. Welcome, Michael.
All right. I just love the energy in this room. So much energy we ought to share. Let's give each other a hug. Thank you. Turn to somebody and give them a hug. All right.
She wants a hug.
Thank you.
Stay like this for a minute.
It is such a joy to be among winners, because as she said, I wrote a book, a best-selling book. That was so exciting. Family just say, hey, you had that book in your head for so long, we never thought it would come out. The bigger part about being a best-selling author, people think they know about you because they read your book. They knew that I wrote a book, but a lot of them didn't know. I dealt with some other things. A lot of them didn't know I was diagnosed with a depression, bipolar disorder about 23 years ago. Yep, that was me. And I even thought about taking my life. As I pulled my car in the garage, I felt so hopeless that I failed my family. I failed myself. I failed my friends. But I was strong enough to look at my family in the eyes to see there was more to it, right? And it was a far cry from a little boy who claimed his kingship. When I went over to my grandmother's house, Mama Hushie's house, I would come up the back way stairway, and 6 other siblings. I was the king. I went to the top of the landing every time we got a chance and claimed my kingship. I am the king. That's right. That was me. Far cry from thinking about anything else. From my childhood to my youth, through manhood, I was independent enough to know that I can step up and help mom and daddy. We was poor and didn't even know it because mama was so excited about having 7 kids in a house. At one time, we can make these things and do these things better than other people can even imagine. So we wasn't poor, we was rich in spirit, right? Far cry from thinking about that I don't want to be around here. I took on that responsibility of every time I hit an obstacle, I stepped back into something different to fight it and learn it. I got into college. I went from 2 college, 3 college, but my goal was to get a degree. I did it. In fact, in my profession as an auditor, I was an auditor before an accountant because I wanted oversight. And during that time, I also became a real estate investor, a licensed builder. I owned a business, but I was happy with it. I didn't get much sleep. One day, my doctor told me that he was concerned because I think I went a span of 40 hours with 3 hours of sleep. But that was just me, at least I thought. I hit that brick wall so hard. It was because I took his advice. I went and saw a specialist. That specialist came out and said, well, the problem is that we diagnosed that you might have a depression, bipolar situation going on. I said, nah. They said, let's take some time out and look at this. So I went through therapy. Psychiatrists are already, ready to write that prescription. The therapist is the one who will see to you. So time went by and diagnoses were the same. So the way we're going to cure this is we're going to put you on lithium. If anyone knows what lithium is, it's a powerful, at that time, 23 years ago, antidepressant drug that just take you out of the zone. It was a cure that they looked at, one of the best drugs. So we went through that for a 6-month period, and I said, nah, this is not me. Because I didn't have that edge that I had, right? So I had to move on to something else, and I said, this is not going to work, and I go back to therapy. No, you can't go back to therapy. We don't believe what's going on in your mind is correct. But at that time, I was an auditor. I was going out watching people. If they didn't have what I needed, or if they wasn't in compliance, or whatever, all the other things that they're supposed to be, I was able to write them up. But as a kid, I had this character called the Hulk, that green monster. Occasionally, he came out of me. He came out of me to a point where I couldn't control myself, but I didn't see that. My daughter, my mother, the people around me, my wife at that time, they saw it, but they didn't know. I was in control. So from that point, I didn't like the lithium. I went to Prozac when Prozac was so controversial. I got on Prozac, and he said, well, take some Depakote with it to balance it out. I said, Prozac? Mr. Jones down the street just killed his whole family. He was on Prozac. You want me to take that? So I had to put in my mind through this therapist that I had, who was my savior. She talked and talked and talked. It reminded me about some of the habits that I talked to her about, that Mama used to talk about: visualizing faith, being real, being authentic, targeting success. Don't do much, right? No money. No money was important because as I got older and I was in my funk with this disorder, I was spending money like crazy. I had a son who was wanting to go to college. I had a daughter who just became a medical doctor in May. But during that time, it was so embarrassing because I was laying in bed 5 o'clock after when she was trying to get my attention. I would lay in that bed with my cover over my head with my 3-piece suit on. At that time, I had a beeper and my shoes. Shut the blinds, and I wouldn't get up. And she tugged and pulled, tugged and pulled. Well, guess what? I had to get out of that because she had a vision to be a doctor. And at that time, she first wanted to be a vet, then she wanted to be a medical doctor to treat people, but she never spoke about treating depression. I found out that she entered school. She became pre-med brain and cognitive studies. That's all it took is 5 years. The embarrassment of knowing that's what she thought about got me to get the help that I need. To become the person that I am in 2005 when I went to get an exam and they said, you can work with your therapist. I said, what about the medication? We're good. It took strong habits for me to get there. The one habit that I didn't say 7 was think, repeat. Because what I did is I started journalizing down when I became the green monster and I felt different because somebody agitated me. What was that all about? It was about getting up in the morning. What mood am I in? I would journalize. And I was truthful. Irritated, unhappy, didn't sleep. I recorded my blood pressure. I recorded my objectives. What do I want out of the day? I want to feel happy. Oh yeah, and that affirmation, when you read it in the mirror, you're going to be happy, you're going to be happy. You got to go back and reflect. Were you happy? Right. So I did that. I learned how to write down the things I want and reflect on it. Those things build. They build the understanding for me that I'm not in this by myself, right? And when I was going through group therapy, I saw a lot of people that had advice. They were different people, Fortune 500 CEOs, and a painter that only made $17 an hour. And the stuff that came out of their mouth, these are private conversations, by the way, but you have to look and say, I got to fix myself. I have to write it down and fix it. I grew to doing that. Each time I thought about relapse, I had to go back and think about it. The glory was there. 2006, at one point in time, as I told you, under my disorder, I spent money like I was crazy prior to 2006. I filed bankruptcy. Here's a person, an auditor, a financial literacy trainer, filed bankruptcy. So after I healed, I went back to repair the wounds with my kids, my family, because it was ugly. I was a green monster. You can imagine the stuff that came out of my mouth. I repaired all of the image that I wanted to be. to go out and help somebody. I was fortunate in 2006 to get the outstanding financial literacy trainer for Michigan Accounting Society. That was 2006. Now let's talk about relapse. Relapse is the test. 2007, my mother, just full of joy, we went on walks. 69 years of age. She went sick for 15 days. They didn't know what was wrong with her. In the 15 days, they said she had 3 days to live. She died in 2. Prior to that, she said, look after your sister. Your younger sister's having some problems. Not thinking. I went through my depression, which was rough. My marriage didn't work. So I remarried in 2008, shortly after my mother passed away. A week later, from the time that I married, my brother had a hip operation, and he went in for the second hip operation because he was a black belt in karate. And what happened was, he had an infection, and they didn't know about it. They gave him Valium, sent him home, and he died a month later from septic shock. So, relapse, right? Mama, Sandy. And 7 months later, my sister committed suicide. Relapse, right? Write it down and fix it. Some things are going to be harder in life to deal with, as I learned. As a coach, Coach Wynn, I wanted to live that true test. So the things that I can leave with you is to really think about, if you ever have to have successful habits, think of ones that work with you. Visualize faith, worked for me. Be real, authenticity. Target success. No money, understand money. Live health, understand your health to that day. Record how your day is going. I say hello to 10 people every morning, and I don't do it for them, I do it for me. I'm that person on the elevator that will track you down. Hello, how you doing? And some of them run, they see me coming. Honest God. So I want to leave with you. Habits. Habits will determine the level of your success. I was glad talking to you.